I'll do the introduction. So thank you all for coming, for joining our EER seminar for the day. So today we have Professor Sola Adesope joining us, and let me get his bio up. Here we go. All right. So Dr. Sola Adesope is a Boeing Distinguished Professor of STEM Education and College of Education's Associate Dean for Research and External Funding at Washington State University Pullman. Dr. Adesope's current research focuses on the use of systematic reviews and meta-analyses for advancing evidence-based practices, cognitive and pedagogical underpinnings of learning with computer-based multimedia resources, and investigation of instructional principles and assessments in STEM education, especially engineering education. Dr. Adesope is a recipient of several awards, including the WSU's Sola Faculty Excellence Award for Research, Scholarship, and Arts, as well as the American Educational Research Association's Research Award. So he does have to leave a little bit early, just to let everyone know. And I would also encourage you, you're welcome to move up a bit more closer to the front. Everyone feels very far away back there. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so very much, Aaron, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming here. Those on Zoom, please, can you hear me? Those on Zoom, can they? All right, great. Thank you so very much. So sorry, I have to catch a flight shortly before 5, so that's why I just wanted to leave here like 2:45, 2:50, thereabout. But I will certainly leave my contact information. Actually, Fatima has my contact information. Dr. Cindy also has it. Dr. Karen and Dr. Heron, they all have my contact information. Feel free to get my email address and send me emails. I'll be glad to provide follow-up support for my presentation. So today, I just want to talk with you very briefly about a program of research to advance science and engineering education that I will consider as a success story. I am from Washington State University. By the way, you have such a beautiful campus. This is probably the largest campus I have ever been to, the largest university. I mean, it's just so spread out and so gorgeous. But we also have a gorgeous campus on the in Pullman. I felt like I should give you a little bit of taste for what WSU Pullman looks like. If you want to know more, talk to Emma. Her dad actually attended Washington State University and finished from there. So this is one picture of WSU Pullman campus. Another picture, that's the stadium. Impressive stadium that you guys have. I drove by yesterday. Our stadium is not that big, but we can create so much energy on football weekends too, just as you do here. And another side of campus. It's really, really beautiful. So glad to be there. Let me start by just sharing some of the relevant experience that I have. I've been a PI, co-PI on 15 federally funded grant projects over the past 14, 15 years. I've been an external evaluator on several NSF projects. I've served on the National Science Foundation and Institute of Educational Sciences panels. I do extensive editorial work, maybe more than I would recommend for anyone, but this is the price you pay for being an underrepresented minority. Sometimes you are asked to be on so many things. I'm a senior associate editor for the Journal of Engineering Education, the co-editor for Educational Researchers, associate editor for the Journal of Educational Psychology, and serve as an editorial board member in all the top educational psychology journals that we have, as well as educational technology journals. I have, as at this morning, 165 peer-reviewed journal publications and proceedings. Those papers have been cited close to 9,000 times. The exciting thing is that most of the works that cited our work, they are actually in engineering sciences and nursing, particularly the concept mapping work, nursing and pharmacy. H index 33, high 10 index of 73, have 3 books, 11 peer-reviewed book chapters, and over 100 peer-reviewed presentations at international and national conferences, as well as 30 technical reports. Those grant projects, federally funded grant projects, have totaled about $15 million over the past 14 years. 3 of those ongoing funded projects are one, the Exploring Brownfield Programming Assignments in Undergraduate Computing, knowing that this is just a short summary of program of research. So I'm not going to go too much into detail for any particular project, but I will give you snippets of the project. This is really an exciting project. We wrote the proposal with Chris and Phil. Chris is at Oregon State University. Phil Conrad is at the University of California, Santa Barbara. That project was funded first time by the National Science Foundation. And the whole idea here, it's really exciting, is to explore the way we teach computer science. Typically, computer science courses, particularly the foundational 100-level courses, are taught through or by giving students some tough programming assignments, and those students then go into their dorms and suffer in isolation. The problem is that is not the way those students will work when they get to Microsoft or Meta or Amazon. They are going to work in teams. They are going to work, they are not mostly going to even write brand new programs. They are going to write what we call a brownfield program, which is a kind of a programming terminology whereby a programmer has to understand existing codes that have been written. If you are hired in Microsoft today as a freshly minted computer scientist, you are not going to write brand new codes altogether. They are going to give you 10,000 lines of codes for a particular app or operating system and ask you to understudy the codes to the point that you can know. The fact is that 100 people may have worked on those codes, but they have all left Microsoft. Okay, they have all gone to start up their own companies, so they are somewhere else. So some unique challenges: you do not have the original writers of those codes available. You have to be able to ask good questions. You have to be able to find information. You have to be able to not just only write new codes, but understand codes that have been written by other people. So we pitched this idea to NSF to change the way training of undergraduate computer science students is done in this country. And it really, got rave reviews from the panel. This project was funded right away. In fact, we are writing a follow-up grant proposal. We have actually submitted that, which would be millions, that would broadly disseminate this idea. The brownfield idea is not only limited to computer science education. In fact, if you are in civil engineering, some of the greatest national challenges that we have has to do with infrastructure, our decaying infrastructure. No country has money to pull down all the bridges and build brand new ones. We are still going to rely on existing bridges. Those bridges were built and roads were built 50 years ago under a different climatic condition. So we have to start to understand the changes in climate condition and how they impact our existing infrastructure. That's an idea of brownfield engineering, so to say. So it's a novel kind of idea which has implication for not just only teaching, research, and all we do in this country. Another project here is called the Educate Project, Educating Diverse Undergraduate Communities, Affordable Transport Equipment. I will talk a little bit more about that later. This is a $2.7 million project funded by the NSF. We have 5 graduate students who are working currently on the project. And this idea is that many key engineering topics like heat transfer, liquid flow, they are so abstract that many engineering students just don't get it because they are too conceptual, so abstract. So what we did, teaming up with faculty in chemical engineering, in mechanical engineering, was to build what is called a low-cost desktop learning modules that you can place on your table, just like this bottle of water, and then students are able to see how liquid flows, and when they change parameters, what happened to heat flow or liquid flow, and so on and so forth. And that is a massive project that is being disseminated in about 50 different universities in this country. I'm also working on robots to usher in transformation and future construction work, working with Carol here, with Dennis Simmons at Florida, and we are looking at trust that construction workers have, or workers generally have, with the use of robots. And this is a robotic campus here, by the way. Kudos, your robotic program is top-notch here in Michigan. I'm also an external evaluator on about 10 different funded grant projects, approximately $7 million. And also have about 12 non-NSF or non-IES external, as well as some internal grants. This is one example whereby 2 years ago, we wrote a proposal to the Department of Defense to create a Center for Academic Excellence in Cybersecurity. Cyber issues, cybersecurity issues, they are just everywhere. I mean, if care is not taken and we have a massive national cyber attack, it's going to destroy us as a country. So the ability to train the next generation of cybersecurity workers who can really be at the cutting edge of protecting our nation's cyber infrastructure has become very important. That was a $1.5 million project. And in fact, we got additional money from the state of Washington to start a bachelor's degree program in cybersecurity, separate from computer science. And then another typical non-NSF project is a statistical analysis of international database of PISA and the Teaching and Learning International Survey called TALIS. That was funded by the OECD out of Paris, and looking at international data sets of about 30 different countries and doing some really advanced modeling work to understand how teaching practices evolve in different countries. So my program of research, so I just gave you just a little bit of some projects, but let me now focus on strands of research. I would say that I have 3 different strands of research, and there are many PhD students here that this might be important for them, or even some assistant professors. How do we create a program of research? Actually, my first degree was in computer science, and then I did graduate work in educational technology and psychology. So I'm able to marry all of these different skill sets and background, particularly in STEM, in computer science education, as well as engineering education, through these 3 major strands of research. The first one is I conduct systematic reviews and meta-analysis to advance theory, to foster evidence-based practices, and advance methods. That's the first line of research: systematic reviews, meta-analysis. And when I conduct one, it gives me the landscape of any field, and then tells me these are the gaps, major gaps in this line of work. Then I begin to conduct empirical research to fill those gaps. It's a fascinating program of research because I'm able to speak more with policymakers. Policymakers don't really care about one single study or 2 single studies. They really want a body of evidence. And this is what systematic reviews and meta-analysis has allowed me to do. In fact, the reason I could not stay till 3 today is because I have to catch a flight at 5 p.m. to go to Amarillo, Texas Tech health sciences campus to speak at the American Association of Veterinary Medicine conference, because they are interested in the use of evidence and what's the role of meta-analysis in the use of evidence. So that line of research has really given me a lot of exposure, not just only in engineering or in sciences, but in all different kinds of fields. The second line of work, strand of research, is in knowledge representation in multimedia learning environments. I'm very much passionate about multimedia learning. How do we learn and teach via the computers? And particularly, how do we represent knowledge differently than they have been represented for almost 200 years? And the dominant form of knowledge representation is through text or prose, but I'm looking at different forms of knowledge representation like diagrams, and a particular form of diagram called concept map. Then I do a lot of work in STEM teaching and learning, engineering education research, computer science education research. And these are some of the examples of the systematic reviews and meta-analysis. These are more recent works. I have published about over 25 meta-analysis and systematic reviews. And I like to do meta-analysis in a very hotly contested space, areas that, hey, we don't know. So, I mean, there was about 15 years ago, there was so much debate on the floor of the House of the United States about whether US should become bilingual or not. That was my golden moment. I went in and did a meta-analysis of the cognitive correlates of bilingualism. What are some cognitive advantages of bilingualism? We found that bilingualism can attenuate age-related cognitive declines like dementia. If you get bilingual early enough, proficient early enough in 2 languages, and the constant switching from one language to the other improves working memory and helps your memory to be sharp, so that when you get old, you really don't default into dementia on average than people who are monolingual. That's a powerful finding there. Working memory, meta-linguistics awareness. You are aware of who you are speaking with. I'm speaking with my grandmother who cannot speak English. I learned to speak my local language, okay? If I'm speaking with you, I'm speaking English. So the constant switching of language also sharpens the working memory and gives you more meta-linguistics awareness. Some fantastic findings about bilingualism. Guess what? After that paper was published in the #1 journal in education, a review of educational research, the Congressional Office of Research in DC called for that paper, asked for the paper, and it informed discussion on the floor of the House about whether US should become bilingual or not. This is what meta-analysis can do for you really making impact at a very high level. So we've done some more recent meta-analysis on keeping it coherent, seductive details, effect, emotional designs, dynamic static visualization with Fred Pass from Erasmus University in the Netherlands, effect of human-animal interactions on learning, signaling principle, flipped classroom in STEM. We just published that a year or so ago. Smartphone addiction, okay? Lots of interesting topics. I mean, how should parents work with their kids in terms of smartphone? With a former dean of the College of Engineering, Candice Claiborne, we got funding from the NSF to look at high impact engagement activities in engineering and computer science. We're looking at reputational text for conceptual change with some colleagues at the University of Southern California, teacher video case-based learning, and benchmarking effect sizes. This last one will probably be with Mark Lipsey of Vanderbilt, will probably be my retirement package or benefit to the field. We want to benchmark effect sizes. What does an effect size of 0.2 mean? To some people, 0.2, they just use Jacob Cohen's rule of thumb. That's small. 0.15, that's more. But what about the practical significance? If in a medical field, 0.2 will allow your spouse to live for 10 more years, Is that a small effect? Ask a couple in love. They will tell you that's a huge effect. So we're looking at some key learning and teaching pedagogies. We are going to be looking at benchmarking the effect sizes so that people can actually know truly what is small, moderate, and large. We've started that project for 5 years. That's why I said, hopefully in the next 5-10 years, we'll finish and then I can resign and can retire. Okay, so that's, systematic reviews of meta-analysis. Let me now come to knowledge representation. How do we represent knowledge? Particularly in multimedia learning environments, I've used concept maps and diagrams. This is an example concept map. Concept map consists of nodes that are connected by links and labels. Okay, so you have nodes like Cindy Finelli is a professor at University of Michigan. Okay, that would be how you can break down a concept, what could be a text information to a concept map. We've also done some work on advanced multimedia learning theories with empirical research on concept mapping, which we published in the Cambridge Handbook of Multimedia Learning. This line of work has made substantial contributions to science education, particularly nursing, pharmacy, and more broadly science education. It kind of started back with the 2006, about 20 years ago. We published a concept map, a meta-analysis of concept map in the Review of Educational Research. And really, that was a classic study. It became so defining for the field of science education. But we did find some gaps to address. How do students read concept maps? It's like, unlike text that you read left to right, top to bottom, this thing is just notes and links all over the space. How do people read them? Do they read them more like they read text? Where should you put important concepts on a page or on the screen? So this way, what about map shock? If you give a student a bunch of concept maps that has 50 or 100 nodes and some links, they can be shocked. I mean, how do I start reading this? What about the comparative and synergistic effects of concept map? Limited knowledge of the effects of concept map and other multimedia learning strategies in the classroom. So we embarked on a program of research, which actually started with that meta-analysis and then looking at the broad array of gaps or possibilities. So we started conducting a lot of empirical research over the past 17 years or so, 17, 18 years to fill some of those gaps. And guess what? A good empirical research answering one research question would always produce 2 unanswered questions. Okay, I always tell my students, this is why we continue to have a job in academia. We solve problems, but we create more problems in the process of solving a particular problem. So now, the first thing that came up to us was, how do learners read concept maps? We did an eye tracking study to look at where learners traverse, how learners traverse the concept map. And here are some key findings. A bunch of the participants in our experiment actually read concept maps more like they read text. So that was what we call the text transfer model. They begin reading concept map from the upper right corner and proceed left to right, top to bottom, like they were reading text. However, other sets of participants in our experiment, their earliest fixations were in the central region of the concept map, and then processing order was biased towards nodes with a greater number of links. So if there's a big node at the center, they fixate there first, then as nodes attract many other nodes, then they fixate in those spaces, densely populated nodes, so to say. So what does that mean? It means that if you're drawing concept map for people to learn, you might actually consider maybe amplifying or broadening your most important notes, the key concepts. They might be in the middle, maybe make them a little bit bigger, make so many other notes connect to them, and so on and so forth. Then we also thought about how can we use this in a classroom setting. So about 7 years ago or so, 8 years ago, I had a meeting with the College of Arts and Sciences and found out that Chemistry 105 and Chemistry 106 has a failure rate of over 30%. Undergraduate students who go into these are gateway courses. You want to be in medicine, pharmacy, nursing, anything earth sciences, you have to take Chemistry 105 and Chemistry 106. I would think maybe even students in engineering were required to take that. And the failure rate was really huge. I mean, like 30, 35% some semesters. So it became a problem that they were also looking for. This was a marriage of convenience because they were also looking for support. And, you know, I met up with them and we talked about the use of concept map in those chemistry, foundational chemistry classes. So we would go in 5 times to do experiments every semester. That it's a large class. Chemistry 105 is about 500 students each semester on our campus, between 500 to 700 students. So we'll work with them 50 minutes per session, but we have 5 sessions in a semester. We examine different variations of concept map, different multimedia structure of concept map to really see what kind of concept map might be beneficial for science students. The beauty of this is that this is not just research conducted in a laboratory. This was conducted in an ecologically valid environment, which is huge. We looked again at different variations of concept map. Yeah, again, it's, I mean, over the past 5 years. And then we collected different types of data, demographics information, prior knowledge on the topic, time on task. These experiments are almost always on the computer. So we're able to have metadata that track how long they stayed with the intervention, the learning performance. We gave them the post-test, which sometimes could be some multiple choice questions, some transfer questions, some conceptual questions, retention and conceptual questions, more open-ended, delayed post-test sometimes whereby they had to come a week later, and we examine how much of the content they have retained, topic interest, cognitive load, how well did they suffer cognitive load with the kind of intervention they had. Their judgment of learning, the ability to effectively calibrate how much they have learned with the concept map or the control conditions. So we've done so many papers, but I mean, just to give you a taste of this, we had a group that actually that was called the map translation group one semester, whereby they read text, they were asked to translate it, construct a concept map. So they had to generate something. So this is like a generative learning activity. Very, very effective. Those groups outperform the groups whereby instructors will give students concept maps, either complete or partial, and ask them to fill. But again, these were moderated significantly by prior knowledge. Students of low prior knowledge can have extreme cognitive load when they are asked to draw concept because they probably might not know, but also, training was important, and the ability to train students on how to generate concept maps. We've published about 20 journal papers in the Review of Educational Research, EdSci Review, Experimental Studies in Learning and Instruction, Journal of Experimental Education, Educational Psychology. We have a Cambridge Handbook of Multimedia Learning, and a number of other journals. We've also had over 30 peer-reviewed conference papers at APA, EER, and the National Association for Research in Science Teaching on this. Some of the things that we're looking at going forward, we have the chemistry instructors on board. I got a Boeing Distinguished Professorship that provided the research assistantship support. That was a tremendous help. Working with 700 students 5 times every semester, that would have killed me if I were to do that all alone. We currently have about 4 manuscripts, even in preparation, and we have a large data set. I'm talking of thousands of data sets that can generate several more papers for journals and conferences, and also allow us to do more advanced psychometric analysis for publications. Well, this is how programs of research are developed. You do all of those things, but cumulatively over time, you even have more data that can be explored even differently. So engineering education, STEM education research is the third and final strand of my research. Well, I can call it STEM education more broadly. We've done some work in math education, but not as much as in computer science education and engineering education. In engineering education, we have published over 20 journal papers and proceedings. And in computer science education, we've published over 10 journal papers and proceedings. We also have what we call the summer programming camp, which I will run through fairly quickly. Now, so the engineering education projects, we have had so many projects, but let me speak about one, the near $3 million project on the effects of low-cost desktop learning modules in engineering classrooms. We created 4 low-cost desktop learning modules for hands-on learning. These are modules to teach hydraulic loss, double pipe heat exchanger, Venturi meter, shell and tube heat exchanger. These are key fundamental engineering topics in chemical engineering as well as in mechanical engineering, even also in civil engineering too. We collected data across multiple universities in the US through what we call the hub-based model, and I will show you what I mean by the hub-based model now. In fact, we have collected data from close to 50 different universities in the US. So we collect both cognitive and non-cognitive data, learning type data, motivation, interest type data. We use the ICAP framework to measure engagement, how well the tool actually helps them to engage. So this is these are examples of the low-cost desktop learning modules. These are pictures of them. On your left, you have the double pipe heat exchanger low-cost desktop learning modules. As on the right is the shell and tube. And some of you might be in engineering and might understand these topics even more than I do. So these modules, and they have been, I have to say that we have some industrial backing too. Some industries are now clustering together to come and take this to the next level, build this. In fact, the most recent version of this is even much smaller and much compact. And we have the industry working on developing these modules like, put it in your backpack, take it home and use it to learn some engineering topics. All right, so this is the dissemination across the country. You can see what we call the hub-based model. We are the West Hub, WSU, we are the lead on the project. Then we have the Central Hub, University of Central Oklahoma. We have the Northeast Hub, University of Connecticut. We have the Southeast Hub. So each hub has a number of universities within their region that they reach out to and disseminate. And we also have support structure in each of those hubs. Okay, so I mean, again, we've done like 20 papers on this, so I can stay here till next week talking about different papers. But in all, these low-cost desktop learning modules were more effective than lectures or other types of ways of teaching engineering topics. The majority of the participants also reported that these modules fostered interactive, constructive, and active forms of engagement. It really helped them as they work in group around each module. It really helped them engage in conversations. And those results were robust across semesters and schools. Then we have what I call the summer computer programming camp, these are some pictures of summer programming camp to wrap up here. This is the picture that we took last year at the face-to-face computer programming camp. And this is the picture we took for the online computer programming camp. We have this programming camp now, both face-to-face on campus as well as online for middle school students. Why this programming camp? This is part of my research in STEM education. I've told you an example project in engineering education. I want to wrap up with an example project in computer science education. About 25% of K-12 schools offer computer science courses, and 90% of parents actually want those courses offered. This percentage is even dramatically low when you go to rural or geographically separated areas, college towns. Anaheim is a big city. Pullman, separated, okay? So many universities, so many regions, rural areas and regions in this country that kids has not even any computer science courses in K-12 schools. We thought that a programming camp can provide engaging introduction to STEM concepts, increase interest in STEM, particularly in computer science, and when we have this even in the summer, it's an opportunity during the summer when knowledge loss typically occur. So we've had this for the past 7 years, from 2017 to 2023. This was funded by the Boeing Distinguished Professorship to me. It was aired online for the first time during COVID in 2020, and ever since, because we had people sign up from rural Texas who were just in the middle of nowhere and had no opportunity. So then since then, we thought we will always have the online version as well. We teach Python programming language to middle school students and some high school students. They are divided into novice and advanced groups. Each group is led by different instructors and teaching assistants. We go Monday to Friday, about 5 hours each day. Typically in a year, we will have 60 students in face-to-face and another 60 in the online group. They cover a range of things like variables, lists in Python, conditional statement, for while loops, functions, and they've developed different games and real-world flight data, which some of these middle school kids developed. And these are the two fundamental research questions that we ask. How does participation in a programming camp influence students' motivation to pursue programming STEM before and after the camp? And how does participation in a programming camp influence programming knowledge as well as computational thinking? And we have a number of measures that we collect during and after the camp. Just to give you an insight, on one of the papers that we wrote for 1 year, students who participated in the online programming camp, there was a significant statistically significant difference in their programming knowledge and as well as motivation to learn. In fact, programming knowledge produced an effect size of close to 0.8. That was 0.77, which was really, really cool. We have manuscript published. We are expanding the online camp to reach more students, starting from Washington State as well as in the nation. In fact, I just submitted a $3.5 million grant to the National Science Foundation, a proposal that to continue to expand the reach of the program. As part of that, too, we are looking at teachers, training teachers who can work with K-12 kids during the school year and leading some after-school programming clubs to advance students' interests. I want to say a big thank you to some of our major funders, National Science Foundation, Boeing through the Boeing Distinguished Professorship, as well as Department of Defense Cybersecurity Operations. Thanks to the many collaborators who have been part of the journey in the research that I talked about here, and many others that I could not talk about. They've come from a number of people that you see their faces on the screen here this afternoon. I want to say a big thank you to each one of them. Some of these people were students who are now professors at the University of Georgia, Athens, University of Tennessee, Simon Fraser University, University in Ohio, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much. That's my contact information. I would be happy. It's 2:41 now. I'll be happy to take a question or two before leaving. But others can certainly send me questions, send me emails. Yeah. Over to you, Aaron.
Well, first, yeah.
So, sorry, I didn't get the question. How did Okay. We actually have it. That's an excellent question. Thank you so very much. The question was, when students work in a group, how do we evaluate individual contribution? And that's so true because there is research. I'm an educational psychologist. Johnson & Johnson in cooperative learning talks about some key pillars of cooperative learning, promotive interaction, but the greatest pillar to me is individual accountability. How do we make individuals accountable in a cooperative or collaborative learning environment? We have a number of ideas that we have tried. Students actually have to rate their contributions. And we have what is called the Gini coefficient, which has been developed in computer science and some other fields to compute how well students have collaborated. So other students, I will rate, if there are 4 of us in a group or 5 of us in a group, I will rate the contribution of all other students. And each student will rate the contribution of other students, including me. Now, so that will give us some metrics to compute, how well they are working together. In addition, we have specific rules, and we encourage students to rotate those roles depending on the nature of the project. I mean, somebody might be someone who logs the group discussion or what the group has agreed to. We almost always have a discussion board whereby interactions between group members go on. Someone might be the one who captures and summarizes what is going on in the groups. Another person might be the one who leads the group meeting for ideation. Maybe they need to put together ideas. Someone might come about and say, okay, what are the errors in this program? And they sit together and talk about, oh, line 538 has this error, I saw this. So someone might lead that, and then they can rotate that all through the semester. So we've done some differences, but most importantly, we have not done much, I would admit, because we have a proposal now to the National Science Foundation whereby we are specifically asked to study group dynamics and individual accountability and how that contributes to the success of the group. So hopefully with that funded, we will have more information and data about how group work works in computer science education. Yeah. I can. I'm calling for my lift now. So, and it's probably going to take about 7 minutes. Sorry. I got a lift. Oh, okay. So sorry, please. Yeah, let's take a question more.
If you have a question online, you can also put it in the chat. We do not have any questions online yet. Well, Cindy raised her hand. Let me see if I can unmute you. Cindy, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, I am. I don't think I can turn on my video, but in any case, I was wondering, thanks so much for the presentation. It was really interesting to hear the journey that you've had through engineering and STEM education research, and you're really making a significant impact. I was wondering if you could tell us about an instance where you were working on a project and it wasn't widely embraced by your colleagues. Was there something that you were able to do to help convince them of the value of the work that they might not have seen at face value?
Thank you, Cindy. And that was a really good question. Wow. And I will answer fairly quickly because my cab driver will be downstairs in 4 minutes. It says 10 minutes, and then I press yes, and then it says see him in 4 minutes. There was a time that I had submitted a paper about animated map because of the problem of map shock, which I talked about. When students see 100 notes on a page, they are bewildered. They just don't know how to process that. And we used animation to solve that problem so that students can click next, and each node appears and add to the existing node. The field, talking about my colleagues, my colleague reviewers and editors, the field did not see that vision at all. That paper, that manuscript was rejected like in like 3-4 different journals. But guess what? It ended up, we persisted. We didn't give up, and it ended up being published even in a better journal. So, I mean, my suggestion to students here would be keep working at it. Be humble. Even when your colleagues don't, they will give you feedback. Take the feedback. Use the feedback to improve what you do. And I'm sure you will be a better person for it. I have just been, patient. Yeah. Thank you, Cindy. I could see your text. Thank you so very much again. But feel free to send me an email. I'll be glad to carry forward or continue the conversation. By the way, you have such a strong engineering education program. I'm very optimistic about this program, and I look forward to reading papers, journal papers coming out, projects coming out many more coming out of this program. Thank you so very much for having me. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks to Karen. Thanks to John. Thanks to Aaron. And thanks to all of you for coming today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're all finished.